fire is dying down. You can feel it before you can see it. The light shrinking inward, the shadows at the edge of camp creeping closer with every passing minute. And somewhere out there, past the reach of the last flickering coals, something moves. You don't know what it is, you can't see it. And that, more than almost anything else, is exactly the problem. This is the story of why the dark scares us, and it turns out, this isn't some modern hang-up left over from horror movies. It might be one of the oldest, most rational fears your species has ever developed. Let's start with an uncomfortable fact about what humans actually are, biologically speaking. We are, fundamentally, a daytime species. Our eyes are built for bright light and color, not low-light hunting. We have no claws worth mentioning, no fangs, no natural camouflage, and compared to almost every serious predator we evolved alongside, we're painfully slow. Our entire survival strategy for most of our evolutionary history depended on things that work great in daylight and fall apart at night. Seeing danger coming, coordinating with a group using sight and gesture, recognizing a threat early enough to run or fight together. Take away the light, you take away almost every advantage we ever had. Now put that fragile, half-blind daytime creature into the actual environment our ancestors lived in. Early hominins in Africa shared the landscape with lions, leopards, hyenas, and saber-toothed cats, and unlike us, these predators were built for the dark. Superior night vision, silent movement, patience. Paleontologists have found direct physical evidence of this danger written into the fossil record itself. At a site called Swartkrans in South Africa, researchers identified an early hominin skull with puncture marks matching almost perfectly the spacing of a leopard's canine teeth, consistent with the animal carrying its kill up into a tree, exactly how leopards behave today. That's not speculation, that's a predator's bite pattern preserved in bone for roughly 1 million years. This is what ecologists call a landscape of fear, and for early humans, the landscape got dramatically more dangerous the moment the sun went down. If you were the one member of your group who felt a jolt of dread every time darkness settled in and stayed alert, stayed close to others, avoided wandering off alone, you were statistically more likely to survive long enough to pass that same jumpy, cautious wiring onto your own children. Fear of the dark isn't irrational. Under those conditions, it's closer to a correctly calibrated risk assessment running automatically in the background of your mind. And here's where it gets genuinely interesting, because this fear doesn't seem to be something children slowly pick up by watching scary movies or listening to campfire stories. Developmental psychologists have found that fear of the dark emerges in children across wildly different cultures, with wildly different parenting styles, and wildly different levels of exposure to frightening media, at roughly the same predictable age, somewhere between 2 and 4 years old. That kind of consistency across unrelated cultures is a strong signal of something biologically pre-installed rather than culturally taught, similar to how humans seem evolutionarily primed to quickly learn a fear of snakes or spiders, but not, say, electrical outlets, which are statistically far more dangerous to a modern toddler. Some fears get built in ahead of time because the threat they're warning against is old enough and consistent enough to have shaped the brain itself. But there's a real scientific nuance worth sitting with here, because not every researcher agrees the fear evolved specifically as a predator detection system. An alternative explanation focuses less on darkness itself and more on uncertainty. Your brain, at every waking moment, is constantly trying to predict what's around you based on sensory information, and darkness removes almost all of that information at once. Under this view, the fear isn't really about monsters or leopards specifically. It's a generalized threat detection system spinning up into overdrive precisely because it suddenly has no data to work with, and ambiguity itself, not knowing what might be out there, is enough to trigger the alarm. Both explanations might be true simultaneously, working together rather than competing. Whichever the deeper cause, humans found a genuinely brilliant technological answer to the problem: fire. Controlled fire use stretches back roughly 1 million years, and it did more than provide warmth and cooked food. It fundamentally rewrote the risk calculation of nighttime. Fire deters most predators outright. It extends the hours a group can safely stay active and alert. It creates a small, defensible island of visibility inside an otherwise unreadable landscape. Anthropologists studying modern hunter-gatherer groups, including the Juhwansi of southern Africa, have found something fascinating about what actually happens once that fire is lit and the sun goes down. Daytime conversation tends to be practical. Arguments, complaints, logistics, the ordinary friction of shared life. Nighttime conversation around the fire shifts dramatically towards something else entirely. Stories, myths, songs, moral tales, passed down through generations. Some researchers argue this isn't a coincidence. The fire-lit dark may have become the specific repeated setting where human groups built and reinforced their shared culture, precisely because it was the one time everyone was gathered, alert, and paying close attention to each other. So the next time you feel that small, involuntary spike of unease, walking through an unlit hallway or hearing a strange noise outside your window at night, understand what you're actually feeling. Not a childish overreaction, not a leftover superstition. A genuinely ancient alarm system, shaped by a landscape where the dark really did contain teeth, refined over 1 million years of fire-lit nights, that taught your ancestors, again and again, that staying close to the light and to each other was how you made it to morning.